Inside Story Uganda, real source of political updates.
Mbale, woman member of parliament from Mbale City, Honorable Ofono Opondo, incoming MP for older persons in parliament. I have Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi on the flight to Taiwan. Yes, he's the outgoing member of parliament for Maokota South.
What is Taiwan to those who never went to Makerere or Great?
Well, Taiwan has turned out to be the common phrase for the failing ship. Well, and joining me is the old man, Andrew Mwenda, senior journalist and managing director, Independent Publications, together with Honorable Semuju Ibrahim Nganda, our frontliner, and member of parliament, Chira Municipality. Good to have you all, and a very good evening.
You are describing him as someone who has lost. Me, you are calling me MP Chira Municipality.
Well, I hosted you on Monday.
Our fate is the same.
I should actually start with you. You're coming out to concede defeat has elicited mixed reactions. Some people say, matches you had no option, but you have a thick skin. You have a very thick skin. How are you contending with the loss and the calls of sympathy?
But I told you, was it Morning Breeze?
Yes.
That I lost fairly. If I lost an election fairly, I can't dismiss that election because I will be a fool. But also I don't want to pick excuses. So I lost and conceded because in my view I lost fairly. We had a campaign, very good campaign. I never had any disruption, not from security, not from anyone. And the results came back when I had lost. It is only decent for me to concede that I lost.
Did you expect to lose?
No, I didn't.
So it is after they had counted the votes.
Are you the host now? This is not
Honorable
Andrew
Sibambi. Honorable Sibambi.
This is not Andrew Mwenda.
You're trending
You were a guest.
everywhere, ranting about how people were very ungrateful for the things that you've done for them in the constituency. And you just being a sore loser.
I also concede. I also lost. There was no irregularity.
But our voters were influenced from a different perspective. Religion played a very big part.
You are defeated by NRM?
Yes.
By Honorable Kauchi, Susan.
Yes.
She's bouncing back.
And then there's also the other problem of the emerging party, the NUP. So basically, in terms of losing, I concede. I lost fairly, but there was...
The dynamics.
Yeah, they are different. So I was talking about the dynamics. I'm not complaining about the voters because they are vulnerable and gullible. But basically, those institutions, one a political party which I supported all along, and then the other one, the Catholic Church.
How did NUP cause your failure?
Because there's this feeling that they have to get, the more members of parliament you get, the pass also increases. So it had to do with economics and confusion. There's lack of direction also.
How about the Catholic Church? Why would you blame the Catholic Church?
I don't want to talk about it again because I've talked about it repeatedly. They had the feeling that they're under captivity of a Muslim. So wherever they would go, a Muslim, we're hostages. Please vote Sejemba. You know, this is our constituency. From the vicar, he even told me personally. He also approached Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, said, let him go to Butambala, this is our constituency. So it became a very big problem. But I concede, I lost fair. The irregularity is notwithstanding. Nakauchi is my MP.
You sound rather entitled. You seem to believe that it was yours to lose.
No, it was just a service. I didn't expect to lose, okay. But still, I understand the dynamics of my loss.
Honorable Lydia, congratulations. How did you make it this time?
First of all, I would like to thank the people and the voters of Mbale City to having voted me overwhelmingly. to be their member of parliament for Mbale City on the seat of the women. They decided, and it was like a consensus. So I give the honor to them, and I take the victory with humility. I promise to serve you, and I'm right here starting to give you the visibility you deserve as Mbale City. Thank you.
Yeah, but there was a sense that it was more of NRM against NRM in Mbale City. How much intrigue did it reveal about things happening within your NRM?
I promised everybody, including the NBS, that what is behind me is now behind me. I'm now looking at the front. My face is in the front now. Whatever happened in the past is of the past.
What will you never forget about this race and how your fellow NRMs treated you?
Is that I won. I emerged victor because I was on the right line and I looked for the vote. I raised the issues and I won.
Andrew, if we were to unpack this election, what were the big highs and lows? And don't you find it rather awkward that the dust is not settling yet? There seems to be a lot of tension, too many complaints about the process and everything.
First of all, I am so impressed by both my two grandchildren, Samuju and Sabambi. Please stop these jokes. So I'm impressed by them in the fact that they are accepting the results and saying the election was free and fair. The problem of most Ugandans who lose, Ugandans are sour losers. Most Ugandan politicians, whenever they lose, they want to blame somebody else for their loss, and they never accept the defeat. Regarding this election, I wrote an article on the 9th of January mentioning that Museveni was going to win Buganda and Busoga and rest of them from Bobi Wine. Museveni came close because I think Bobi Wine has 49, Museveni has 47 in Buganda, and in Busoga Museveni won. So it was very clear. I drove around the entire country, and driving across the entire country, it was very clear to me that immediately you get out of Buganda, even as you go towards Bugweri in Busoga, really Museveni becomes dominant. You drive through Busia, Tororo, Mbale, Soroti, Lira, Gulu, Arua, Pakwach, Masindi, everywhere. There was presence actually of PFF and NUP in Hoima. You could find their posters, their campaigns. But you go to Western Uganda, these people are not known. So why I saw NUP people manipulating things, videos online saying that their candidate got 73, Museveni got 25, and they switched. So if people live in these kinds of delusions, it tells you the problem you have, because actually these people are not present. I traveled across this country with two professors. One is a professor of political science from New York University, but she's married to a Ugandan. She's been in the following Ugandan politics for 20 years, called Melina Platas, married to Angelo Ebyama. Another one is Jude Kagor, who is a professor of sociology at Bremen University. When we finished, both of them predicted Museveni would win by anything between 70 and 75%. It was obvious. This is not to say that the election was free and fair, because an election is not just on polling day. If you look over the last 3-4 years, Museveni will not allow his opponents to organize, to mobilize, to appear on radio stations, to hold rallies. Meanwhile, he will use the resources of the state, both communication resources of the state, financial resources of the state, and the repressive institutions of state to give himself a crushing advantage. Now, of course, I always tell my friends is the behavior of the NRM, how NRM conducts elections, is known since 1996. No one seated here can honestly say.
Known as mischievous, or?
Well, no one seated here can say there is anything NRM did that they did not know or that they did not expect. For me, the challenge always I tell those people who complain is, by the time you participate, you are knowing the rules of the game, the standards that NRM, or the tricks or methods NRM uses. When you participate, you are accepting that you are playing in a very uneven playing field. Now, normally, and this is why I think the opposition make a big mistake, what they confront is a David and Goliath situation. You have Goliath. When you are David, you don't confront Goliath. You have to use asymmetric tactics.
Not stones.
Well, what I mean by asymmetry is, how did the Taliban beat the Americans? How did Museveni defeat Obote here militarily? How do how do you exploit the weapons of the weak to gain advantage? Now, you may not win. I feel like people like Bobi Wine make a mistake. If I was in Bobi Wine's shoes, I would tone down my rhetoric of calling Museveni Maduro and all this kind of dictator, human rights, and focus on those things. I'll try to campaign on drive an issue-based campaign, and after the campaign, I'll look for opportunities to do what Raila used to do, to be able to engage the government, talk to them, either participate in it or influence it without me joining it.
Yeah, but Andrew, what is quite interesting is that despite his dismal performance, he was able to consolidate the strongholds, that is Buganda and Busoga.
Who?
Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi.
No. Then you have not seen the results. I can just read for you.
No, he was at 53 in Buganda.
Yes, but that shows a significant decline from what he had gotten before. Let me give you the numbers because I have them on my phone. In fact, Bobi Wine, let's come to Buganda. In Museveni got 47.6, Bobi Wine 48.9.
He had an edge over him.
Yes, but I can show you what was the result that Bobi Wine had. Let me say in Buganda in 2021. Bobi Wine had performed much better than this. Here we come to Buganda. Bobi Wine had Western Uganda, Buganda. Bobi Wine had 62 against Museveni's 32 in Buganda. So you can clearly see that there was a severe decline of Bobi Wine. And why was that decline? It was expected. I want to ask you guys, you are seasoned politicians unlike me. All of you have contested elections. I haven't. But what did Bobi Wine do between 2021 and 2025 to keep the flame of the opposition burning? Because if I was Bobi Wine, this guy here you see, I disagree with Semuju on many things. But Semuju is a formidable politician. Did he reach out to you to have a conversation with you on how to build a united opposition?
Was it necessary?
We have Westvambi here. We have Ofono Pondo. Ofono Pondo is an NRM person. But sometimes when he's speaking on TV, he's even the spokesperson of NRM at the government at that time. But sometimes he speaks like an opposition politician because he's very critical of government. And the NRM tolerates him. If I was in the opposition, I want to reach out to him. I may not win him over, but I can drink from the well of his wisdom. There are people like Amanya Mushegabi, Dandisali. There are bishops, there are sheikhs and mufutis. There are all the second Kagwanjala. There are so many Ugandans in business, in the professions, workers, farmers. And for me, I got surprised that NUP have this sense that they're so popular, that Museveni is so unpopular, and for them they're so cool. Everybody loves them. Everyone is willing to jump into bed with them. I should tell you, Kagwanjala, my wife and I, if we had a quarrel, let me assume I was a very bad husband and I was beating her and stuff like that, and we divorced. It is not true that she will automatically fall in love with you. You need to win her over as well. So many people may have fallen out with Museveni. They're frustrated with him. It's incumbent upon the opposition to reach out to them and show them that we represent a better alternative to you.
Thank you. I'll get to OO. Thank you very much, Andrew. OO, earlier you had predicted Museveni's win. But is this an election you can write home about with all the violence and the mischief that played out? We're looking at failure of BVVKs. We're looking at quite a number of things.
Well, let me go back to what you had asked, I think, Honorable Nsibambi. I think in this studio, I think I've lived in the politics longest. Particularly in NRM in the studio, I've lived the longest, most active. I've traversed the country, I think, more than everyone else on this show. So I am on the ground. This election I wrote many months ago that was for Museveni and NRM to lose. What does that mean? That it will take an uphill journey to upset Museveni's election and NRM. And when you are discussing this election, don't just discuss Museveni's vote. Discuss also NRM. It appeared, and I'm glad that Mwenda corrected you. In 2021, Bobi Wine got 62. we got 32. And it swept us off most parliamentary constituencies, district chairpersons, councillors, sub-counties. In this one, Buganda, I think, has 102 parliamentary seats. This one, NRM, apart from what Mwenda said that Museveni now is almost at par, 47, 48. In this one, NRM has so far declared 57 members of parliament elected. In Buganda. NUP has 39. Yes, NUP has 39. So you can go back after this show and do your maths. What drove this? I think NRM, yes, NRM went back to the drawing board and plugged areas of concern for many voters and the public in Buganda. And that's the reason its share of the vote, both at parliamentary and presidential, has gone up. The second one, I think the conduct of NUP and particularly its leader, Kyagulanyi, where he went into his own party, turned it upside down. I think in doing this, he wanted to be the unchallenged leader in Buganda. I read subtleness in Buganda, where they revere the institution, the cultural institution. I seem to think that many people here in Buganda thought or read that Kyagulanyi wanted to rival, was trying to rival the institution and probably the person of the Kabaka of Buganda. That's why.
It's extreme.
That's my interpretation,
Okay.
not yours.
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
That's why in this election, you have not seen one prominent Muganda, particularly the older generation, the educated elites, the moneyed elites. You haven't seen them publicly siding with either what Kyagulanyi says or with his actions.
So you want to suggest that Kyagulanyi was forsaken, or they fear for self-preservation?
I suspect that many things happened. Forsaken, we can use that. Maybe they were afraid. This.
CBS was very CBS did not oppose NUP, but was very lukewarm on him.
I was coming to that the mouthpiece of the Bwakabaka, and indeed Buganda institution, has been and is CBS. You can give me 1, 2, 3, 4 talk shows, political. I am told even one of the moderators, the producers of programs there, had to be pressurized that he has gone away. I don't know whether he was dismissed or he just felt the environment was not conducive for him, because they believed that he was there promoting Kyagulanyi and NUP. If you have not been aware, I'm now telling you. Now, you are asking the violence. I think this has been one of the elections. We have had incidences of violence, but only in one aspect, between security and Kyagulanyi. Honorable Semuja has just told you here.
Supporters of Kyagulanyi.
Honorable Semuja has just told you here that he did his campaign, no disruption by anybody, not a rival political party or candidate, no security. Sibambi has given you, and he has cited only 2 elements which he thought was fair on his side. NUP, that wanted every seat without the due consideration of the material of the other actors. They wanted NUP to take every seat, and then he mentioned the Catholic Church. I think in this election, like the last one, the Catholic Church, elements in the Catholic Church have been consistent, that particularly the lower priests have taken sides. You have had Honorable Sempuja in Kalungu crying, you have had him, and many others. Now,
the church sided with Kyagulanyi.
I think they were sympathetic to Catholic candidates. If you go to the, I'm saying elements. Yes, I'm saying the elements, and I've said particularly the lower priests, catechists, and so on. And you can go and check the list of NUP candidates in Buganda. What percentage, who were they by religion, by the other social strands that are considered critical in the politics in Buganda. So this is the first election, in my view, that generally speaking, at parliamentary level, we have not had violence.
Thank you.
We have had a bit, but very, very isolated specific places. But we have not even had situations where candidates of rival parties confront each other. We have not had that situation. So when you say things have not settled, things have settled in this election much faster than the election of 2002, 2001, 2006, 2011. 2011, we had extended battles between the government and FDC. From 2011, when we concluded the election, to 2014, walk to work. I don't think in this election we are going to go that far.
Thank you. Honorable Semuju, would you concur with all that the dust seems to be settling? And what kind of reflection would the opposition do?
Deliberately, Ofono Opondo avoided answering the question you set for him.
Which
if
is
I
that?
remember, you asked him to assess the quality of this election.
No.
But he went to explain
and my apologies. I commiserate with the Honorable Semuju and my brother Sibambi. I will miss them. I was actually dying.
Is that necessary?
Yes, I was actually dying. I was actually dying that we meet on the floor because honestly, I have said it many times, Semuju is one of those MPs we shouldn't have lost. Semuju, this one, Abdu Katuntu. Abdu Katuntu, by the way, called me at midday after they declared on Friday and said, my brother, these people have overrun me. And he also considered, he said, he lost fairly, and at his age and the years he has spent, 24 years in Parliament, he doesn't think he should squabble publicly.
Thank you. Honorable Semuju.
I think all of us here are making the same mistake that the founders and promoters of NUP made. They thought Westgate had just failed, that they can pump new energy in this election. Like you've seen, they are very energetic. And then they will be able to overrun the state. Because you're not competing against Museveni, you're competing with the state. And we spoke about the money security. First, Museveni has never changed. When Museveni came here, he outlawed political parties. I remember the debate in Parliament, he said now parties can operate only at the headquarters. I think that was the effect of the Article 269 in the Constitution. And Museveni hasn't changed. But I have said, even in this campaign, I kept telling people that Museveni is just bad-hearted, but he's very intelligent. I was comparing him to his son. I said, this one is very intelligent, but bad-hearted. So he has known how to package and sold the same thing and made it look like it is different. If you're a political party, they will not allow you to address a rally. In Kampala, they will allow you to go and appear on a talk show. You go up country. So he has sort of ring-fenced some areas in Uganda only for himself. But you're competing, most important, against the state. It's money. And to his credit, Museveni has built a new alliance. Because at one time you had the north, you had the east. If you go to northern Uganda, in the past, working with NRM was like a crime. Today they find it comfortable. I was speaking to colleagues from Amuru district. And that's why we need to be very careful when we are dismissing Museveni's achievement in this election. We need to be very careful and honest to ourselves. I spoke to Honorable, okay, let me not mention the name, and she told me in a mall, you go and meet even the ordinary person and they tell you 2 bus, 1 key. So they will go and vote Anthony Akol of NRM, vote Museveni, and then vote FDC. And you think the level of civic competence at that level is very low. But they are able to choose their candidates and they will stick by those candidates. So there is an alliance that Museveni has built, not because of any ideological shift, not because his government is performing miracles, but Museveni compromises leaders. He deprives you of leadership in every area. The people who are preparing opposition in the north are either quiet or they are with Museveni.
But you should be worried that the north has shifted, the east has shifted, Rukunjiri
No, you see,
and other places have also shifted.
I want to look at this. I want to contextualize this. I kept telling people here, in Tanzania, Suluhu won elections with 98%. In Rwanda, I think Kagame wins by the same margin. That doesn't mean that he is loved by 95% of the... It depends on what you are doing. The reason you see competition in Kenya is that in Kenya there is no single party that has monopolized the state. But here in Uganda, the NRM is the state.
Yeah, but look at this, Honorable Semuju. You should be worried about the trajectory of opposition politics. What initially used to be your strongholds have since shifted to the NRM, and the NRM has also eaten into the regions that remain for you. Take, for instance, Buganda. You saw the statistics being floated by Mwenda.
Yes, I agree. Museveni has made some gains. I am now looking at how he made those gains. In this particular election, no, you're not allowed to address salaries. They're not allowing you to receive any money from outside. They will arrest anyone they think is bringing in money. They will withdraw the state funding. They will take over your headquarters. We faced similar problems, and our colleagues, when they were starting in UP, they said they didn't know how to do these things. They know. But Museveni hasn't changed. Even if you change players, you're going to face the same circumstances. You remember how they were abusing Besigye. But they are, even if you remove Bob Wine today and you bring Ofono Opondo, as long as Ofono Opondo is contesting against Museveni, he will be beaten the same way Besigye was beaten. He will be stopped the same way Kyagulanyi has been stopped. Until we've dealt with the circumstances under which people are doing politics in Uganda, the results are going to be the same. People get tired. Look, this particular election, I think, has the lowest turn-up in history. In my own constituency, on voting day, first of all, materials for polling had been brought in Chira a week earlier. But on the day of the election, materials were delivered to polling stations where I vote from at 9. When the materials were brought, now the machines were not working. You remember what I said here with NRM's procurement behavior? And I gave the example of Chogam when they went to buy limousines and brought automatic instead of manual, and they started fidgeting in garages. I had predicted that these machines will not work. I don't want to blame anyone for mismanaging. Maybe it was not intentional. But let's look at the conditions under which people do politics in Uganda before we blame anyone. In fact, things are going to get worse. You're talking about Kyagulanyi being given 24%. The next election, if the conditions don't change, the opposition candidate...
Being given or gunnery?
The opposition candidate may get given. I said given, and I meant it. The opposition candidate may even get 5 or 10%.
Were you just given?
Because... Yes, you are given. So if they choose to give you 20%...
I mean, what you got, were you just given, or that's what you earned?
Me, I've told you mine. I want to concede. But conceding doesn't mean that things are okay elsewhere. They are even cheating. Look what the NRM MPs went through in Kampala here. You need to go and get their stories, what they were doing. I met an NRM friend told me that the trouble with this MG, you abuse us so much. Otherwise, you would simply have helped you. So there are those that they helped.
Thank you. Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, when you analyze this election, does it serve any serious lessons for the country And is this anything to write home about? Despite your win, would you be proud of this election?
You see, this is constitutional. The laws of Uganda tell us that every 5 years we'll have leaders. And people have been discussing the low voter turnout, but whether 4 people turned out, they will count the majority of those 4, and the winner will be declared. That's how the law runs. So we can debate the quality, we can debate how to improve for 31, but as we speak today, you have members of parliament. You have an elected president. Today you have mayors elected. And on the 27th, you'll have councillors elected. And government will be constituted for the next 5 years. So we can only go back and keep correcting, sensitizing, and making sure that Ugandans get the leaders they deserve. But the clock is moving, and you have the leaders. And if you do not participate, there's a higher price to pay for you who do not participate than those that participate. We can only speak about the quality if we engage more, galvanize, and create awareness about the importance of having leaders that are elected as per the law established.
Yeah, but
so I don't know why you are asking. Sometimes your questions are post-mortem.
That's exactly what we are doing. We are doing an analysis.
So for me, I would rather we spend more time before than after.
No,
because now you are asking the quality, but it's already there now. What are you going to do about it?
Should we settle for it? Is it anything?
Definitely, you have a choice to lament. Why do you want to lament? Why do you pride in lamentation?
Or could it be because
there should have been more effort to sensitize people in 2024-25 and to push more to correct the gaps if there were any in legislation or in what was required. But the moment you go into the electoral season and ballots are brought in the polling grounds, people have been nominated. We are now discussing the mapping of Uganda. You are putting the map of Uganda on the wall, and you're looking at how people voted in the strongholds in terms of political parties. Do we still have strength of political parties? How much can we speak about the strength?
When you look at
do people really vote? You've heard from senior council Nsibambi on how people voted in his constituency. Do you still believe that's about political parties or the dynamics in the community? Are you getting my point? Have we really come to a time when really political parties matter on who becomes the leader in the community, or we still have those overriding dynamics of religion, ethnicity, that people ride on to become leaders? Because you've had testimonies. I was listening. I don't know that you are listening, and you saw the importance of it. If you draw the map of Uganda, there are interesting settlements and dynamics. They could be influencing who becomes a leader beyond the colors of a political party. So it could be progressive, or are we retrogressing? I don't know. But this is a debate that should be on the table. And what do we do coming next?
How would you look at this election? A sham or free, fair, and credible election?
This election has been like any other election. It was predicted that President Museveni would win with a bigger margin than he did in 2021.
In what kind of process?
Despite the time of, we had COVID in 2021, but because of the dynamics that happened and the addressing the challenges of 2021, there has been a lot of work by the government and the NRM to correct what could have influenced the 2021 elections, especially in Uganda.
Honorable Wanyoto, I agree you won. But what kind of process would you describe of this election?
Nothing changed. We didn't have any legal reforms in the electoral laws. We did not have any, despite...
The man who had promised us the electoral reform participated in the election and won without those reforms.
Yeah, we did not have any reforms. The people were the same people. The political parties were the same political parties. What I know from where I sit, because I'm an NRM person, is that we worked a lot to correct areas that caused our losses in 2021, especially, if I may add, in Uganda. There has been a lot of engagements among younger people and among different stakeholders in Uganda. The results you see in Uganda that have improved the elections for the NRM did not come out of the blue. There's been a lot of work. I mean, even members of parliament from Uganda and the leaders heard about Uganda from 7, some campaign. These people put in a lot of effort. And there's been an improvement which was intentional and deliberate. I come from Mbale City. In 2021, OO has better statistics than I do normally, but in 2021, the president got less than 34% in my area. Today we went beyond 60%. And these are urban areas.
Honorable Nsibambi.
Yeah, so.
You've moved away from Museveni, who wanted to raise money independently to run a party and also to compete with others. Remember, they even set up companies to do business, Dance and others. I remember the first time NRM had a meeting when the parties were restored. How do we raise money? Remember the document of Ndaula Kawes that we need to get a commission from all government businesses. You moved away from Museveni, who had some sense of shame that I cannot use the state to go and compete, to one who actually now deploys the state, all the state apparatus, all the state institutions, to go and look for votes. Even his rallies, I remember a letter in Kabare ordering everybody, all civil servants, you must go and attend the Museveni's rallies. So that context is very important. And that's why I said we're on our way to where Tanzania is today and to where Rwanda is.
Thank you. Honorable Nsibambi, what do you find quite remarkable about this election that the opposition ought to sit down and reflect upon, especially in terms of losing strongholds or gaining momentum?
Yes, Simon, I've been a member of the shadow cabinet and a very dedicated member, to the extent that Aleese was rated as one of the most dedicated MPs in the shadow cabinet. But when you talk about opposition, that's something we have to reflect upon and think, do we have an opposition, say, institution as an opposition? Specifically, we have a political party called NUP, which took over the leading role as
the opposition.
The opposition. Do we meet as parties to consult and concur and agree? No. For example, I will talk about my home district. Entirely, I participated specifically in ensuring that NRM does not override Mpigi district. And close to 80%, it was actually NUP when I was FDC. I participated in raising funds, in mobilization when I'm FDC. We supported the leader then, and even now, Kyagulanyi, as FDC and all other parties. So there was that bit of consensus. But when you come to parliament, most of the decisions are made at a party level of people outside parliament. So they come with the directives, we should get out, we should enter, we should get out, we should. So at that level, we have a really very big problem. So when you say Museveni defeated opposition, you know, I feel like there's no clear opposition.
Okay, is there a conspiracy between Museveni
no, there's no conspiracy.
and what we call...
He has a strategic or scientific way of manipulating politics here. And the think tank really at that level should be credited. So now, the think tank of NRM should be credited because we don't have a think tank, we don't have a round table to talk about issues. I can give a simple example, and the Honorable Semuju will forgive me. We had issues at FDC level, and then you have a creation of PFF. But FDC did not bring a candidate in Chira. And I don't think we are so weak at that
This
level.
year actually had a candidate who was getting 0 at every polling
Exactly.
station.
But that one is a loner. He was not endorsed by the party. No party leadership came to Semuju because he is first class material in opposition. But what do we see in all constituencies at whatever level, leave alone in Mawokota South? You see? So there's a big problem when you talk.
No leaders went to your constituencies to do campaign.
Everywhere, yeah.
Yes.
Everywhere. But you see, I'm
Often
not
people
blaming.
celebrating.
I'm not
I'm not
blaming
celebrating.
Noop.
You
as
created
such.
these things
I
yourself.
actually blame the government for manipulating parties which are institutions of governance. They are manipulated
Did
too
not
much
fall in
commercial.
the trap of the NRM.
Exactly. Everywhere. In Kasese, for example, NRM is 100% in Kasese, which is a FDC stronghold, because you had the candidates.
It was or used to be.
No, it's up to now. But you see, they cannot believe what happened in Kasese up to now. 100% NRM. When it was maybe 60% FDC. But you had a candidate in each and every constituency. So at this level, I think the issue, we're not blaming even opposition.
You seem to
it does
cast
not exist.
Noop as
Not
an
only-
enemy of the opposition.
Not only Noop, all these other parties are manipulated at whatever level. You go to the north, where it was actually FDC. It's not even Noop involved at all. But still through scientific manipulation, bribery, and everything that you can talk about. So without even irregularities, these are weak institutions. And the other issue, the population is also very poor. So the government now uses state resources to manipulate people. What is the fare taking you back by bus? Is it 20,000, 30? Say, oh, 30,000. Then she gets 30,000 at that level. And the majority don't even think about issues to do with government and general development.
30,000 for what? For taking them to do what?
They say, if you want to go home, what is your fare by bus home? It's a sort of saying, what kind of money can I give you to take bus?
Going home to vote or what?
No, they would say it's a code that you see at that level. See, if you want to go home, what is the fare by bus? So in other words, you go and take the bus and you get 30,000. No, our people, it happened everywhere throughout.
Were you everywhere?
Yes, in my constituency,
Honorable
for example.
Nzibambi,
So
how regrettable is it that the areas that were hitherto strongholds of the opposition
Yes.
have since gone? And does this create to you a picture that it's all gloom for the opposition?
for the country, not opposition, for the country. You cannot kill institutions of governance and you talk about development, whether you have won or not. I lost in my constituency. I don't want even to analyze the irregularities. I had to concede, and I really want to go behind the person who won, whatever method she used, because it's not even her problem. The problem is with the state and President Yoweri Museveni. You see, when you believe in an institution, then you must nurture it.
So has the state
must support
finally
it.
subdued the opposition?
Exactly, because people are very poor. People are manipulated to believe that if you don't associate with a state institution or organ like the NRM, you are doomed. All these issues of PDM all over, the president moved around PDM, goes to piggeries and small whatever. No, at that level, something the president should have delegated.
Okay. Noop seems to argue that President Museveni snatched their victory.
That's not true. That's not true. At least from PG. We have
Let's
lost.
talk national.
I've not analyzed the national statistics, but at least in my own constituency as a sample, I don't want to say that we won. We lost miserably this time around. Actually, we may end up having like 20% of the leaders as opposition. Initially, we had about 80%. People are really vulnerable, they're gullible, they are manipulated, they are everything on the ground now. The dynamics show.
So has NRM become more consolidated? as a political party?
You may talk about consolidation as a strong party. It's not strong. Because if you kill institutions, you're killing yourself as well. But as we talk right now, there was no switching of results overwhelmingly substantial. And I really want to warn this government. We really have 3 people in the studio. Maybe they pass on the message. A country without formidable institutions is not a country. It's the duty of now government and parliament here to go and ensure that people are sensitized. All these political parties which are registered are funded. Wherever we go, we need water. It's something there. The people are just saying, what are we getting? Now it's at that level. You are giving productive strategies to ensure that you uplift their standards. Say, we are tired of those other things, that rhetoric.
Andrew, do you get a sense that with Museveni winning now, the NRM is stronger, or it is Museveni who is at his strongest?
I think both. Because as you have seen, in Buganda, Museveni almost was 50-50 with the Bobi Wine, but NRM won more seats going to parliament than NUP. But there is a point I wanted to make. First of all, I get frustrated when I listen to leaders of the opposition continually for the last 35 years complain about these electoral irregularities which are a constant. You see, if me was in the opposition, I cannot shape Museveni's behavior. So I want to take Museveni's behavior in the elections as a constant. You cannot even change the poverty of the people of Uganda since you are not in power. So those are constants. People, when they are poor, they will be bribed. Whether it is the NUP, FDC, UPCDP, whoever will be in power will bribe poor people. So the question is, since they are givens,
there are members of opposition leaders, including being in parliament, who accuse each other that they are being bribed by the government side. Are they also poor?
So you can see it's even more complicated. So for me, I would, if I was in the opposition trying to do strategy, is to say these are constants. And 2, we have very little influence on them. Whether Museveni will use the state resources or he will use the army and the police to beat you up is a constant. Or it is something of which you have no control. But there are things on which the opposition have control. You see, what are the elements they have control on where they can change their fortunes fast? The evidence is clear that Museveni does not have an ironclad system of rigging. In 2006, Museveni got 12% in Acholi. Now he got an average of 84%. Why is it that in 2006 he could be so badly beaten, basically got 82%, and Museveni got 12%?
The rigging was improved.
Okay, so if Museveni's rigging is so great, how come he got only 32% in Buganda in the last election? And now he has gone to 48%. You see, what evidence shows us is that the NRM and Museveni do not have a free ticket to cheat. What is it that Bobi Wine did in Buganda that allowed him to win by 62% against Museveni at 32%, a margin of 30 units? What is it that made Besigye beat Museveni in Acholi by 82 to 12 in 2006? And then now Museveni is getting the same 82%.
Who does this soul searching? Or we treat elections as events?
Yes,
and
but this is why I'm coming. I personally feel like people in opposition are not interested in thinking about the situation they face. Let me tell you the situation Museveni has placed the opposition into. Let me assume I was a strategist for the opposition. We are seated in a meeting. 1, the opposition faced a dilemma. Should we participate in a clearly rigged process where we are certain to lose and thereby legitimize this very fraudulent process? That is one challenge. But there is an upside to it. If we participate, we will have an opportunity to reach out to campaign, to put our issues on the national political agenda, to have our fellow citizens listen to our grievances and our alternative to the governance of Uganda. So there is a risk that you are going to legitimize a fraudulent or an unfair and unfree process, but the upside is that you are going to be able to present your case to the population. You'll be able even to build your structures. Now, or there is another alternative. Should we boycott this election and therefore deny it legitimacy, but in the process sink ourselves into oblivion and even lose the opportunity to present our case to the public, in which case we sink into oblivion? Now, I believe that the opposition have made what I would call a strategic choice to say, no. If we boycott, we will lose the opportunity to present ourselves to the people, to present our grievances and our alternative ideas, and we'll sink into oblivion. So in spite of the challenges we are facing, let us participate in this deeply flawed process, but be able to make our case. Now, because that is a strategic choice, I feel they have crippled themselves to making it the next step. Because you have accepted to participate in the process that you know is flawed, it means you accept the flaws in it.
Do you agree the process is flawed?
Deeply flawed. There is very little chance that the opposition in Uganda can win an election because NRM puts in place severe obstacles that make it difficult for them to organize, to mobilize, to do practically anything.
You're part of them, aren't you?
Well, okay, let me assume I am Museveni's kitchen organizer. I, Andrew Mwenda, have put so many roadblocks for them. So I feel like when they have made the right strategic decision, they don't take it to a logical conclusion. You have accepted the terms of the engagement. So you should be willing to accept the outcome. You know, when you accept that outcome, what does it tell you? It means that after an election, it's important to see Museveni not as an opponent to destroy, rather an enemy to destroy, but an opponent to defeat. If you can't defeat them, to work with him.
Well,
oh my God, can I finish?